Hello, welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I'm Rosemary, and today I wanted to talk about free money. So that's what I call it when you get money that is unexpected and not part of your regular income. So it might be for your birthday or a holiday, or you might even get money from a friend for helping them out with something. And when I get free money, I want to spend it on myself. Now, I'm practical. I know I have bills that I could use the money for too. So I recently came into some free money, as I call it, and I decided I would spend 15% of it on myself and the rest on the bills. And so it didn't end up being enough for me to do any of the indie decks that I have been wanting, but it was enough for me to go down my Amazon wish list and pick out a few things. So I kind of wanted to show you what came in the tarot mail this week. I came home from work and several days I had something sitting on my steps. So the first item that I had sitting on my steps was Tarot for Yourself by Mary Kay Greer. And this book has been on my wish list for a while. I actually had not been able to look through it before, but Benabelle Wynn did a Sight See the Tarot episode in which she did a spread from here. She did augment the spread a little bit, but it was enough that I thought at the very least I would enjoy having the book for that spread. I had hoped this would be more of a self-help type book using tarot, but first impression is from the table of contents and the things I've seen in the book, flipping through it, that is not exactly what I was looking for. I think it will be a valuable resource, and I am going to read the book, though it'll probably be later this summer after I finish the next book that I received, which actually turned out to be the self-help book I was looking for. And this is the Tarot Elements by Melissa Sonova. And if Rosemary had read the tagline, she would have realized that this book was not about relating the elements to the tarot cards, but it is 5 readings to reset your life, which is actually what I was looking for in the first book. So in here, she does 5 elemental spreads that will help you evaluate your emotional state, your home life, your finances, and a few other things. The idea being that to work over time through these spreads and improve things in your life. I actually got through the first 2 chapters and was preparing to continue going through the book as it was written and doing the spreads in that order. However, she included a spread to help you determine where to begin your journey. So basically, which element do you want to start with? I did that spread and I ended up with this card. It is the Ivory Shield, which is the Queen of Cups from the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. And so I began reading the chapter on water. And I got to a certain point in it and saw the tarot spread. And I was like, this is so familiar. Why is this familiar? And it took me a moment to remember I had done this spread while watching a Benabelle Wynn video, Sight See the Tarot, on this very book. And I decided that the universe was telling me you need to spend more time with that spread. So I took the time and I transitioned that spread to my Spirit Keeper's journal, where I'm going to keep all of the work I do with this book using the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. And so I just added additional notes that I had thought of as I've looked at the spread again. And I actually did one of the exercises that Melissa recommended in her book following the spread, which was to list your concerns and your hopes, and then a ritual of getting rid of those concerns and putting them in your past again. So, and I'm looking forward to finishing this book. In it, she actually has some, not just exercises, but also some recommendations for things you can do to improve those particular areas of your life. One of the things that I discovered is that over the last 6 months to a year, I've actually been doing most of the things she recommends for your emotional health. And I can say that I actually am more emotionally healthy than I've ever been in my life at the moment. And so I think that this was a good place for me to start with the spread that I've done and an area that I've been working on, and then move on to some of the more complicated issues that I might have. Definitely looking forward to finishing this book, though I'm going to take my time with it, and it'll probably last me most of the summer. I also received 2 tarot decks that have been on my wish list for a while. The first one has actually been on there since I started buying tarot decks, and that is the Mystical Manga Tarot. It actually isn't a very expensive deck, but it's basically an RWS clone, so I had been putting off getting it in favor of decks that were more, had their own systems, because I do love learning a new system. But this is a beautiful deck. I love anime and manga, and so the art style of this is wonderful. And one of the things about this deck is that while it is basically a RWS clone, it does have its own take on some of the cards. And one of my favorites is the Ten of Swords. There is the person with all of the daggers in their back, all of the swords, your anxiety, the issues you're facing in life, whatever the case may be that's causing that pain and discomfort for you. But she is looking at the horizon, and whether that is the dawn of a new day or the sunset on the current day, it's a reminder that no matter how bad things are in our life, that there is a day to come where things might improve. I know for a lot of people, when they see this card in spreads, they tend to immediately think, well, everything is hopeless. You know, I mean, there's just way too much in my way at the moment. There's too much. I can't handle it anymore, basically. But this card reminds us that while we might be in this place now, that there is a new day to come. So I very much am going to enjoy working with this deck. The front of it, at the back of it actually, has compass symbols, which to me is representative of the direction which we can find in the tarot when we search for it. And if you'll look, there's kind of a red color in the Harlequin pattern there. So I'm going to edge this in that color when that ink arrives on Sunday. And I may do a video about that, even though there's hundreds of deck modification videos out there. Since I'm going to be doing it, I might as well just film a video and show you what it's going to look like when I get done. So that's the Mystical Manga Tarot. The last thing that I received on my Amazon wish list with my free money was the Illuminated Tarot. And there are a lot of mixed feelings and reviews of this deck by tarot aficionados because it's not 78 cards. So I first saw this in Costco's World Market, and it was reasonably priced, and the box was gorgeous, and I decided that I would buy it. And so I flipped it over, and it had a sheet in the plastic that had pictures of some of the cards, and I looked at them. They were gorgeous. And then I read a 53 deck for divination and gameplay, and I'm like, a 53 card deck? That's not a tarot deck. And I put it back. 3 months later, a friend of mine came to TN Tarot, and she had this deck, and she was struggling with it because it was only 53 cards, and she couldn't work out how the major arcana worked with the minor arcana, and was struggling with it a little bit. And I looked at it, and I started watching videos of it online, and I love the imagery so much, and I have been wanting to look at how readers would use a deck of playing cards for divination, and I just went ahead and purchased it. I've worked with it for the last week. I did a great spread with it that I really loved, using only the major arcana the other day. Basically, all 78 cards are in this 53 card deck. The difference being that Some of the cards actually represent both a minor arcana and a major arcana card. So what you'll find is you'll have the image of the major arcana, but within it are the pips for the minor suit that it's replacing. And what I found in many cases, the major arcana card and the minor arcana card have similar meanings to begin with. So for example, the Queen of Hearts is considered an emotionally developed older woman, a nurturing woman, as it were, and that is actually a great deal of what we see in the Empress. So it just makes sense the Empress is the Queen of Cups. And so I like that aspect of the deck, and I'm going to enjoy working with it. There are two cards that I just really didn't like when I first got the deck. One of those is the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands, traditionally, we'll see a guy holding a staff, getting ready to defend himself against his attackers. He's prepared. And when I did a Instagram challenge this week where I was thinking about cards that were anticipating obstacles, that was the card that I went to because I thought he was prepared to defend himself. And then this card clicked with me. These beavers are preparing for their safety and security by building themselves a home and a pond using a dam. So that made a little more sense to me, and I can relate to that card now. One card that still is just stuck in my craw is like, what was she thinking? Is the Two of Clubs, which is the Two of Wands. And while this imagery goes with her keywords for the cards, which is an argument or a heated debate, that's not an understanding of the Two of Wands that I've seen in a tarot system. So correct me if I'm wrong, if you have seen that in a system that I'm not familiar with. So that's a card that bothers me for that reason. But because the imagery matches her keywords, I think it's something that I can work with. I want to share my favorite card real quick, and that is going to be the Judgment card, which is the rooster. So, I mean, at first I was like, why a rooster? But basically, you know, it's like you're being called out, you know, you're being awoken to a new day, and that's really what Judgment is about. We have the trumpets calling people out, and so here we have the rooster calling people out. The Judgment card is one of the cards that I struggled with in my Photo of the Day tarot cards. I actually did not finish it yet. It's the only major arcana I haven't done, and now I'm thinking a rooster may be the solution to my problem with that card. So what have you done lately with your free money to benefit your tarot practice? Comment below. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, good journeys.